All right, everybody, get ready for today's deep dive. We're going deep into the world of road repair with something called SOUP. And no, we're not talking about lunch here.
Yeah, this is a different kind of recipe.
Definitely. We've got our hands on technical documents, instructions for this stuff, even lab reports all about this SOUP material. So what is it? How well does it work? And could this even be the future of road work? That's what we're here to figure out.
And I gotta say, even just looking at these documents quickly, there are some pretty interesting things here. Things even I didn't know about. And I'm pretty deep in this world.
Yeah, I know. Just the name SOUP, it almost sounds too good to be true, right? Like it's some magic solution. I'm looking at their value proposition.pdf here. And they're saying it's cheap, easy to use, better for the environment. It's like they're selling a dream here, hassle-free road repair.
Well, they might be onto something. I mean, I was looking at the souptds.pdf earlier, the technical stuff, and it actually seems pretty interesting. They describe it as a polymeric bitumen compound, something you can mix with RAP, reclaimed asphalt pavement. Basically, it's a really high-tech binder that uses recycled materials to make new asphalt.
So right off the bat, it's eco-friendly. But what really got me was how easy it seems to use. I've got the first time SOUP work instructions.pdf right here. And honestly, it sounds like something anyone could do.
See, that's where things get interesting. Because even though it seems simple on the surface, the science behind this SOUT stuff is surprisingly complicated. I was looking at the suggested protocol for soup production.pdf, and it's not nearly as simple as just throwing any old RIP into a mixer and calling it a day.
Okay, so it's like a recipe for roads then. We're talking specific materials, humidity, even the type of bitumen. All these things matter. It's a good reminder that even something that seems simple can actually be pretty complex. So we've talked about what SOUP is and the science behind it. But the big question is, does this stuff actually work?
And the best part is we don't have to just take their word for it. We've actually got lab results and real-world data to look at.
Let's start with the lab stuff. I'm looking at the Hamburg tests, Shawnee, California, apart March 2023.pdf right now. And it talks about this Hamburg wheel tracking test. Sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it's basically the gold standard for testing how well asphalt holds up under heavy traffic. They use it to simulate the weight and pressure of cars and trucks over time.
So it tells you how likely it is to get those ruts and potholes.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that they tested SOUP with both 10% and 20% ROP mixes, and get this, both of them passed. They actually met the requirements for resistance to deformation.
Wow. So even though it's supposed to be easy to use, it's still strong enough for heavy traffic. That's impressive.
Right. Although I did notice something interesting in one of the other reports. The lab tests recommendations.pdf, they mentioned adding lime to the mix.
Lime? Like what you put in guacamole?
Well, not exactly, but they're saying it can help with water resistance. Makes you wonder why they don't just include that in the main instructions.
Maybe there's some kind of trick to it. I don't know. But it does say you can put SOUP directly onto wet surfaces. That's in the SUP frequently asked questions, 1.pdf.
Interesting. So they're claiming it works even if it's wet. That's a bold claim.
Yeah. It makes you curious how it really holds up in the real world where things aren't always perfect.
Absolutely. And lucky for us, we have these wheel tracker reports. Remember those? They're basically tracking how well SOUP is doing on actual roads.
So we're going from the lab to the streets.
Yeah.
This is where we really see if it lives up to the hype.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to get into right after this break.
All right, so we're back and ready to dive into the really interesting part of this whole SOUP thing.
Right. We've got all this data from those wheel tracker reports. Remember, they're tracking how SOUP is actually performing out there in the real world.
Yeah, basically like attaching a microscope to a car tire.
Exactly. It's all about those tiny measurements, things you could never get in a lab setting. This is where we see how durable SOUP really is.
So what's the verdict? I'm looking at the data here for both the 10% and the 20% RLP mixes. And I got to say, it's pretty impressive. We're talking minimal deformation even after thousands of cars and trucks driving over it.
Which is huge, because that tells us SOUP isn't just a quick fix for a pothole. It could actually be a real game changer for making our roads last longer.
And when you think about it, that means saving money, fewer traffic jams. And it's better for the environment than making asphalt the old way.
It all comes back to that idea of sustainability. SOUP isn't just about fixing roads. It's about doing it in a way that's smarter and more sustainable.
And that brings us to something really interesting that they mentioned in those documents, something about finisher applications for SOP.
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting. It means they're thinking about using SOUP for more than just patching potholes. They're talking about large-scale road construction.
Wow. So instead of just fixing what's broken, we could actually be building new roads with this stuff.
Exactly, and doing it in a way that's faster, cheaper, and better for the planet.
I think that's about the best way to sum up this whole deep dive. We started out just asking, what is SOP?
Yeah.
And it turned out to be way more interesting than we expected.
For sure. It just goes to show there's a lot more to even the simplest things than meets the eye.
That's what we're all about here on the deep dive, digging deeper, questioning everything.
Yeah.
And uncovering the hidden stories behind everyday stuff.
So until next time, keep your eyes open and keep asking questions.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.